Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today for the exciting announcement. And thank you very much to the Edmonton Pipe Trades UA Local 488 for hosting us here today. We are gathered on the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 6, and I acknowledge the Métis people who share a deep connection with this land. My name is Tanine Rudick, and I am the Alberta NDP candidate for Fort Saskatchewan-Bangor. I'm also joined here today by Bill Tanita, candidate for Strathcona-Sherwood Park, Chantel Saramaga Mackenzie, candidate for Spruce Grove, Stony Plain, Cam Heenan, candidate for Leduc Beaumont, Karen Shaw, candidate for Morinville St. Albert, Brooks Arkand Paul, candidate for Edmonton West Henday, Christina Gray, candidate for Edmonton Millwoods, and of course, our fearless leader, Rachel Notley. For generations, Alberta has been the destination of choice for global investment, which led to robust economic growth, low unemployment, and some of the best paid jobs in the country. But the downturn in the price of oil combined with COVID-19 pandemic saw employment and investment drop. And thankfully, we've seen energy prices increase amid a global economic recovery, but here in Alberta, that isn't translating into good jobs and good wages of the past. A recent report from Alberta Central concluded that the Alberta Advantage is melting away under the UCP due to wages for not keeping pace with inflation. In fact, Alberta has had among the slowest wage growth in the country since 2019, the entire term of the UCP. We can't continue looking to the ideas of the past. We need to look to the future. And thankfully, Alberta is uniquely positioned to be a leader in the future economic growth. We are blessed with abundant natural resources, a highly skilled workforce, and an entrepreneurial spirit. With the right policies in place, we can address the challenges of today and build a more prosperous tomorrow. Which brings us to today. And for more on that and what the future looks like for Alberta families like mine, I will turn it over to our leader, Rachel Notley.
Well, thank you very much, Tanine. Now, I said when we launched this campaign 2 days ago that this election is about building a better future, and that includes good-paying industrial jobs for Albertans, jobs that pay the mortgage and support families. Our energy sector has provided good jobs and prosperity for our province for generations. But, as Tanine said, we aren't seeing the benefits of oil price booms of the past. Investment under the failed leadership of Danielle Smith and the UCP has flatlined, and wages have stagnated. During the energy crisis of the 1970s, Premier Peter Lougheed set Alberta down a path that created decades of economic growth and job creation. Along with the innovation and entrepreneurial spirit of Albertans, we were able to get the oil out of the sand, turning Alberta into the global energy leader that we are today. And we're proud of that. But today, in the wake of major investments out of the U.S. through the Inflation Reduction Act, Alberta risks losing ground in the race for a stronger energy future. We cannot be complacent. We cannot ignore the signals that we are seeing from the global investment economy. We need bold and innovative ideas that create those good-paying industrial jobs. And today is about that. Jobs for the future and jobs that pay the bills. And that's why today I am releasing our plan to improve competitiveness, attract investment, and create jobs in the energy sector. This plan was first shared with the Calgary Chamber of Commerce late last year. And since then, we have consulted broadly, and we believe that what we're proposing today will put us on a path to a better future. We're going to do 5 things. First, we're going to grow our petrochemical industry. An Alberta NDP government will significantly expand the Alberta Petrochemical Incentive Program. The program is working, but we think there is an opportunity to build on it and to attract more investment. So we'll grow the program by 30%, or about $70 million, to expand eligible feedstocks and final products and to include partial upgrading into the program. This is a direct incentive for companies that want to invest in Alberta and recognizes that Alberta as an energy superpower. And it also expands our know-how and our traditional oil and gas sector to new ventures, new products, and new markets. But we won't stop there. We'll continue to be forward-looking, and we will be ahead of the curve when it comes to global markets. There are massive investment and job creation opportunities in using bitumen for other purposes, for example. And if we don't step up like the U.S. did, we will lose billions of dollars investment down south. Alberta and Canada simply must compete. And so the second piece of our plan is to establish Alberta's future tax credit. This is a refundable tax credit of 20% that targets large capital projects in emerging industrial sectors like, for instance, critical mineral processing, alternative fuels, and advanced manufacturing. But even more important than that, it's about workers and their wages. And that's why we will boost this tax credit by another 10% for investments that deliver key outcomes like high-skilled job creation or new technological capabilities and innovations. We'll also directly target investment in jobs and skills training being conducted at facilities just like this one. That's why the fourth part of our plan is an $18 million investment over 4 years into union training centers. The best training outcomes come when workers support each other in their workplaces. We will make sure we have the skills and the collaboration to get the job done. As well, when we talk to potential investors, they talk about the need for more workers, and they talk about the shortages of tradespeople. And one way to make sure we continue the long history of people coming to Alberta and working in the trades is to make sure we have the kind of labor laws to continue the long history of good working conditions and strong wages, the kind of wages that allow folks to support their families for decades. I am so excited for the potential of our new tax credit and our committed investment in skills training. But I also want to stress that part of our commitment to economic stability is to keep programs that work. And that includes the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation. This is a promising approach to building Indigenous equity and ownership. So the fourth piece of our plan is a commitment to consult with Indigenous communities on its possible expansion. We will seek perspectives on expanding the AIOC to small or intermediate scale projects. Finally, to fully maximize our investment and growth potential, we must increase regulatory certainty and efficiency. Today, we are announcing that an Alberta NDP government will also speed up that regulatory process through the creation of a new performance fast pass. It's very simple. If a project proponent has a strong record of good behavior when it comes to protecting workers, when it comes to environmental compliance, when it comes to, paying their taxes and following the rules, well then that proponent, that application will be processed sooner and your project could be operational sooner. It's a bit like a Nexus Pass for businesses, and it will help us get big projects done right and done well and done more quickly. Taken all together, these bold policies will attract $20 billion in new private sector investment. It will create, at minimum, 47,000 more jobs for Albertans. We will get shovels in the ground sooner. And we'll expand our refining and our manufacturing capacity so we can make products, more of them, right here in Alberta, adding values to our resources, the resources that we all own as Albertans. You know, my friends, we are at a pivotal moment. Our economy is changing, and we must be ready. The decisions that we make today will have long-lasting implications for future generations. We simply cannot afford to look only to the past. The Alberta NDP and a government I lead will focus instead on the future, a better future for all Albertans, including those good-paying industrial jobs. We will restore our competitiveness, attract investment, and build a resilient economy and create good-paying jobs now and for future generations. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any of your questions.
We're just going to start with questions here on location, and then we will go to Zoom and on the phones. Just a reminder, if you are on Zoom or on the phone, please use the raise hand function or push *9 on your phone. And for everyone who's asking a question, please introduce yourself and your outlet. Thank you so much.
Hi, Emmanuel Prince from Radio Canada. How much is this new tax credit going to cost?
So the Alberta Futures Tax Credit depends a certain amount on uptake, but we expect that it will cost roughly around $400 million.
You mentioned bold and innovative ideas. Is a new tax credit for the energy sector really bold and innovative?
It is, in that it is directed at the kinds of technologies that will support the industry in reducing emissions and or developing brand new sort of manufacturing opportunities or capacities. So, for instance, in the past, with our formerly PDP and now the APIP program, the new technologies that we saw through IPL with respect to petrochemical refining, that was new to Alberta. And it made Alberta the leading producer of that feedstock in Canada and one of only 2 places on the continent. So it was innovative. Obviously, when you look at things like hydrogen, when you look at CCUS, when you look at geothermal, those kinds of things allow traditional industrial manufacturers and producers to reduce their emissions by powering their work through that kind of energy production. So that's sort of what we're looking for, and we're looking for ways to bring in new technological innovation that can reduce emissions and add productivity.
Is this on? Oh, there we go. Sarah Reed, Global News. My question's a little bit broader in terms of your campaign. You're obviously here today, but you know, a lot of analysts and experts have been sort of focused on Calgary being the battleground of this election. I guess, what role do you see Edmonton and sort of some of the surrounding municipalities playing in, I guess, Alberta's success as well as your campaign?
Well, you know, first of all, let's talk about Alberta's success. I think every community in Alberta plays a critically important role in our success, whether we're talking about our agriculture industry, our forest industry, our natural resources industry, or the tech sector right in the heart of downtown Edmonton, downtown Calgary, downtown Lethbridge, downtown Red Deer, whether we're talking about the public sector, post-secondary. There's so much, community sport industry where the nonprofit sector, where we do so much work just building our community. Every Albertan contributes to the strength of our economy and the strength of our community. When it comes to the campaign, you know, I will simply say this. I think, again, the answer is the same. Every voter in Alberta is going to be part of a decision about our future, and they're going to be part of a decision about who is going to best lead this province. And my message to every voter in every part of this province is that they have a chance to choose a better future, better leadership, and better policies, particularly when it comes to healthcare and affordability, as well as ensuring that they have a government that's capable of actually making good on the priorities that matter to Albertans.
Okay. I'm just not talking close enough, sorry. And then with regards, a little bit of a change of topic, but with regards to the number of candidates we're seeing right now, the NDP and the UCP both have 87 candidates. And then kind of from there, it drops off in terms of how many candidates the other parties have in those ridings. I guess, experts again saying we haven't seen that for quite some time. What's your sort of interpretation of that? Do you think that's going to provide your party with, a higher chance of success?
Obviously, if you've got a riding where there's only two candidates, we have a 50% likelihood of getting people's votes. So, I suppose that's true, but really, I think what's going on here is Albertans are being provided a choice between two very clearly different visions. On one hand, we have the unreliable, inconsistent, and extremist record of Danielle Smith that is being offered to Albertans. And on the other hand, people are being offered an opportunity to choose better government focused on their priorities, capable of delivering on their priorities.
Questions over Zoom. Our first question comes from Janet French. Janet, please go ahead and unmute.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear me and not too much of the newsroom.
I can hear you.
We just listened to Brian Jean on another news conference say that they've done an analysis that found that the NDP plan to bring the electrical system to net zero by 2035, he called it dangerous. He claims it'll cost $87 billion with a B dollars to achieve and could destabilize the electrical grid. So wondering what your response to that is and whether you do have a price tag attached to net zeroing, if we can verb that, the electrical grid by 2035.
Well, let me just start by saying when it comes to initiatives like getting our electricity grid to net zero by 2035, it doesn't surprise me at all that Danielle Smith is out there saying it can't be done. And quite frankly, under her leadership, that is probably true because she's not focused on getting it done. We are focused on getting it done. Now, the so-called study that is being rolled out today is actually based on one that's about 6 months old that we have looked at. That is flawed in many different ways. And what we know, we are hearing from industry itself that they can do it. We know, like the study that they are talking about overestimates the cost of renewable energy, in some cases by 100%. The study that they are basing their numbers on fails to take into account the opportunities that come from technological innovation, opportunities that industry themselves are saying that they can use and that they are excited to use. And also they're just basically making assumptions that underestimate the potential of Albertans. We have a strong record already, Janet, of incenting renewable energy in Alberta. We brought in a program when we were in government and everybody said it couldn't be done, it was going to be too expensive. What ended up happening was we made Alberta the singular renewable energy investment destination in the continent. And not only that, we did it for the lowest cost anywhere on the continent. And not only that, not only did it not cost us money, it made money for Albertans. So that's what happens when you roll up your sleeves, you do your homework, you engage collaboratively with industrial leaders and innovators and entrepreneurs, you create jobs and you create opportunity. We cannot live in the past. We must have a government that is capable of building for the future, understanding that it's about creating jobs, creating economic activity, and ensuring that we're able to provide the kind of energy infrastructure that will attract more and more jobs in the future.
Hi there. Second question, just on the jobs.
Janet, I think you might have muted yourself.
I think I'm unmuted now. what does the minimum wage look like for the next 4 years under a potential NDP government? Does it stay at $15 an hour, and if so, why?
You know, back in the early aughts, the 2000s, the 2010s, it was common government policy here as well as in most other parts of the country to index the minimum wage to cost of living and cost of living measures. And I have said very clearly that that is something that Alberta's NDP is committed to doing. We cannot allow our minimum wage to fall back to a place where folks who are working 40, 50, 60 hours a week have to stop at the food bank on the way back to work. And so increasing the minimum wage in line with inflation is an absolutely reasonable and fair approach to managing that issue.
Now going to go to Dean Bennett with the Canadian Press. Dean, go ahead.
Hi. Morning, Rachel. Hope you can hear me.
Sure can.
Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. So the UCP leader, Danielle Smith, said this morning she's not going to comment on the Pulowski verdict because it's still before the courts, and she has a policy of not commenting publicly on specific cases. What do you think?
Sorry. I'm sorry, she has a policy of not speaking publicly on matters before the courts, except when she's talking to the person who's before the courts about how she's going to interfere with the matter before the courts. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard from her. Okay, maybe it's not the most ridiculous, but because there's a lot of ridiculous. But listen, the fact of the matter is the matter is before the courts as far as it relates to particular components of the charges. But the video where she promised him that she would speak to the chief prosecutor, who, by the way, is a prosecutor, about the tactics that were being too aggressively used in her mind around his case, is a clear demonstration of her interfering with the administration of justice and violating the rule of law and showing people that she doesn't understand basic law and order principles. She cannot be relied upon. She's reckless and she's unpredictable. And this is a clear example. And quite frankly, it was wrong for her to refuse to speak about it in the past. And it continues to be wrong for her to refuse to be accountable for that incredible demonstration of profoundly bad judgment.
Dean, if you have a follow-up, can you unmute, please?
Oops. There you go. Okay, so the Danielle Smith also said this morning that she was asked about this this interview she did a year ago on the Coots, saying she wants a win at Coots. And she was asked to say, what does a win mean? I think she said it was like the end of vaccine mandates. What do you think about her comments in that interview?
I don't think the Premier of Alberta should be equating people breaking the law, causing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of economic damage to Albertans, and gathering weapons for the purpose of use against the police as a tactic that in any way, shape, or form can ever be characterized as contributing to a win. It's profoundly irresponsible by her. And again, it shows that Albertans can't trust Danielle Smith to provide stable, competent leadership.
That's all the time we have. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.